From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up today on AgDay, concerns about flooding are not over yet. See what's being done to stop the Red River. Some farmers already planting.
It's prime time for corn in our area.
As the efforts to end the trade war between the U.S. and China return to American soil.
It's a big week. A measure to me would be only if they announce a tentative accord.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon in for Clinton Griffiths. The U.S. trade team is back to work this week as Chinese counterparts are planning on visiting Washington, D.C. to continue talks midweek. Vice Premier Liu He and his delegation plan to visit U.S. soil on Wednesday to continue trade conversation. This comes just days after U.S. negotiators visited Beijing and what Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin tweeted about constructive trade talks. The end goal to wrap up negotiations has been extended to the end of the month. Washington watchers say while it's a big week, it is not likely the end of negotiations.
They're definitely trying. You know, some of the issues that remain are hard ones. Information security, cross-border data, cloud computing, and of course enforcement. That's always going to be a sticky one.
Wiesmeyer says it's murky whether it will take a meeting between President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping to seal the deal. Ideally, President Trump wants to meet face-to-face. Wiesmeyer says China does not want that meeting until most of the trade problems and language are resolved. We're watching this right now. President Trump threatening to close the border with Mexico in an effort to stop illegal immigration in the U.S. He brought up that possibility on Friday and revisited it in tweets Saturday. That's despite warnings that a closed border could create economic havoc on both sides. For example, Reuters reporting that if the president did follow through on his threat, Americans would run out of avocados in 3 weeks. America also imports tomatoes, cucumbers, blackberries, and raspberries from Mexico. The USDA estimates nearly half of all imported U.S. vegetables and 40% of imported fruit come from Mexico. Mexico is the largest importer of U.S. ag exports of refined fuels such as diesel and gas. There's some good news and bad news according to new ag trade numbers from USDA. January's numbers show that we started off the year fairly strong. That's despite tariffs and other issues. Trade numbers are up 4% from January 2018 to $11.9 billion. USDA trade economist Cameron Doherty also looked at fiscal 19 numbers of October through January.
We're seeing numbers down 6% at $47.5 billion. There's a reoccurring theme with soybeans taking a hit.
Soybean exports through January were down 42% in dollar value to $6.8 billion, but corn is up 65% at $3.5 billion. Meanwhile, on the import side, U.S. ag imports continue to decline. That left the January U.S. ag trade surplus less than half of what it was a year ago. USDA releasing its first crop progress report of the year. We'll start with winter wheat. 56% of the states surveyed say they have a good to excellent crop right now. Last year, it was 32%. 35% of the states report a fair crop. 9% report a very poor to poor crop. Right now, only 4% of the 15 states surveyed are planted when it comes to cotton, with Arizona leading the way at 26%. Usually, we're only about 3% planted right now. Louisiana corn farmers are taking advantage of favorable weather conditions and are busy getting their seed in the ground. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux reports it looks like Louisiana is going to see a significant increase in acres this year.
Blue skies and dry ground are a welcome sight to Louisiana's corn farmers. Planters across the state have been rolling across fields from nearly dawn till dusk, which is a sign that spring has finally arrived.
It's prime time for corn in our area. We need to get it in the ground.
Ideally, corn farmers in Louisiana would like to have most of their crop planted by the end of March. Late planted corn is subject to higher temperatures when the plant is pollinating, which results in lower yields at harvest.
As we get into April and you're still having to plant corn, we see yields go down anywhere from half a bushel to 1 bushel a day.
One thing farmers don't want to see happen is any rain that would stop planting or damage newly emerged corn plants.
Normally that corn plant needs to get up at least about 6 inches, before we want to see any significant rain, simply because that root system's not able to handle all that water, and that can impact yield even at this early stage of growth.
Farmers are looking to maximize their yields because corn prices have stagnated recently. One way to increase their bottom line is to generate higher yields. Another option is to hope for higher prices.
We hadn't booked any yet. The prices are low. We're waiting, hopefully we can get around $4 a bushel.
The high Mississippi River has caused seepage to fields adjacent to the levees and has led Yates to abandon his plan for planting corn on approximately 200 acres. If the land dries out in time, he plans to grow soybeans on it. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Experts say that the total acreage for Louisiana is expected to approach 600,000 acres this year. That is an increase from the 475,000 acres in 2018. It seems hard to believe, but the planting season will soon be here in the Midwest, and AgDay has you covered. We are airing the first I-80 planting tour segment of the year on Wednesday and will continue to do so for 8 weeks. I am traveling from Nebraska to Ohio and hopefully riding along with farmers as they plant. Stay tuned every Wednesday for planting coverage. Work continues to fight flooding in the heartland right now. After a 5-year break from warding off major Red River floods, North Dakota's largest city is back in the sandbag filling business. Fargo officials have reactivated Sandbag Central. They converted a building that normally houses garbage trucks into a systematic operation that combines machinery and volunteer manpower. Efforts like this saved the city in 2009 when volunteers made more than 6 million bags to barely hold back a record-setting flood.
When they're fully staffed, we can make, in that case, we can make 12 sandbags every, 24 sandbags every 6 seconds. Again, we need the volunteers. And so we kind of try and work through those numbers. Based on our 1 million bag goal this year, we think this operation is going to probably take.
The National Weather Service says there's a small chance the river could approach that level by the middle of this month, so city officials aren't taking any chances. The divide on a disaster aid bill is continuing in the Senate on Capitol Hill, and President Trump is weighing in on it, saying that the Democrats should stop fighting over Republican Senator David Perdue's disaster relief bill, saying, quote, they're blocking funding and relief for our great farmers in rural America, end quote. There's partisan friction on how to allocate the funds and the potential bill, especially when it comes to aid to Puerto Rico. Washington watchdogs say Senate Democrats want a bigger package to cover natural disasters from 2017 to 2019, while Senate Republicans largely believe enough money is in the bill. What's in limbo is a GOP drafted aid package which includes aid for Midwest states dealing with flooding. However, the proposed aid does not include compensation for farmers whose grain is gone due to flooding along the Missouri River. And help is coming in for flood-ravaged areas. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more in today's Crop Comments.
Thanks, Betsy. As we've seen firsthand, it's been a challenge for many producers just to feed their livestock and care for them in Nebraska. That's where a lot of people have stepped up. Shipments of hay and wheat are being brought in from across the country by volunteers. The Nebraska State Patrol sharing this photo, troopers saying they can't thank their neighbors enough for the help they've sent. And take a look at the wind speed forecast. You can see it's going to start off a little bit breezy in the southeast, the Great Lakes and the northern plains. Heading through the day then, we'll see the wind speeds increase across the northern plains and many parts of the southwest. Also, that storm system going up the east coast will spread some wind from the mid-Atlantic into parts of New England, especially coastal New England, as we head into the morning hours tomorrow. A little breezy through the Great Lakes as well. Into the afternoon, it'll become windier in the northeast, southern plains, and parts of the southwest. I'll have more on your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
Still ahead, we have an update on land values and how they're holding up. And later, farmers know a little hard work can go a long way, and these elephants are living proof.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
Grains moved out of the red and back into the green on Monday as buyers possibly looked for some bargains. Here's more now from the CME.
Today in soybeans, the market was up. It rebounded. The new quarter really was bringing some new buyers in there. It's a nice comeback from Friday's sell-off, but the word is that there's some new exports that are off to China that really is underpinning the rally. The market was up almost 15 cents today. It didn't close quite up that high, but still looked very strong. Corn was higher today. Those oversold futures did get some relief, and the market kind of bounced back. You know, there was a real all-out collapse on Friday. So with that bearish report, that's still an issue. But I think that it might have just got a little bit overcooked on the downside. So the market came back a little bit. Maybe it's new hope for the second quarter and certainly a new month. And we're still early on acreage and getting anything in the ground. And I think that the market's just not used to selling off this strong at this time of year. So we got a little bit of relief today. Hopefully we'll continue with that tomorrow. That's all from the floor at the CME Group. Here in Chicago, I'm Virginia McGathy.
Producers are feeling pressure from the markets when it comes to commodity prices. But how are land values holding up? Tyne Morgan has more in this analysis from Iowa.
All right, today talking about land prices and really diving into land prices as we head into planting. You know, the past few years, Randy, I've heard of some issues of farmers having issues getting financed, and so we see a push of land onto the market kind of last minute. Is this a trend that you're starting to see?
Farmers are really conservative as a big picture thing. And there's a difference between the farm operator and the farm landowner. Iowa State University came out with a telling statistic this last fall. 82% of the farmland in Iowa is debt-free. 82% is debt-free in Iowa. That's a huge stability of land values. Now, where is that debt concentrated? And it's more with the operating farmers and the younger farmers, because we've got a demographic and I'm getting off of the need for financing, and there's certainly a strong need for that, but it's readily available for people who cash flow, who have a little bit of equity that the banks like.
So when you look at here in Iowa, for example, and you look at ethanol and the impact the ethanol industry has had on a state like Iowa, and we see waning ethanol demand, you know, does that raise any red flags as far as land values go when we've seen the impact that ethanol has had on land demand here in Iowa?
And it's a problem because ethanol uses such a strong component of the corn used in Iowa. It's 40%. Livestock has an even bigger component, and then the exports are the other component. But as you see any of those forces decrease, it's not good news. But on the livestock side, we now have more capacity for hogs. We were trying to pour some concrete up in north central Iowa. Couldn't get a reservation because of all the hog finishers going up.
Wow.
Because of now more capacity available, that's going to have an impact not just on corn, but on that whole marketplace.
So you don't see any red flags right now for land values, specifically in Iowa?
That's right. I don't see a big red flag, but it's a component that we don't want to ignore.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll have much more right here on Ag Day.
Ag Day, brought to you by Corvus Corn Herbicide from Bayer. Get an early season win against weeds with Corvus for end of season rewards.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, what's going on with weather today?
Well, there's a lot of systems on the map. None of them going to affect too many of us in a really bad way, though. Here's the way things are shaping up. You can see a pretty strong storm system heading up the eastern seaboard, although that's not going to affect a lot of people, really just coastal areas, as we'll see. A pretty strong system coming into the west. This is going to spread some rain and mountain snows into the central Rockies and eventually into the plain states as we head through the middle of the week. A couple of cold fronts coming southward. This is going to bring some more shots of chilly air for a couple of days anyway as we head through the week into the northern tier of states. I don't think these go very far south. Let's put the maps into motion. There's there's that storm system heading up the eastern seaboard. A lot of the effects of that are actually offshore, but there will be some heavier rains right along the coastal areas. You can see a couple of cold fronts there. This first one's going to weaken as we head through the nighttime hours tonight as the second one kind of overtakes it. And that's some chilly air once again. There'll be some snowflakes flying in parts of the northwestern Great Lakes. And you can see this system coming through with a fair amount of snow in some of the higher elevations of the Rockies. As it comes into Nebraska, though, we'll begin to see mainly rain, especially as it gets into central and eastern Nebraska. I don't see anything real heavy there, but there will definitely be some showers coming through. And of course, we don't really need anything more with that flooding, but it's not going to add to the flooding. I don't think we have to worry about that with this system. There's a precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours, adding in the next 36. You can kind of see that system kind of skimming the eastern seaboard. Really, the eastern Carolinas get the majority of it, and you're getting most of that today. You can see most of this moisture coming across the Rockies and into the plains. Generally light. I only see a few areas in Nebraska getting a ½ inch or more out of that system. Snowfall is mainly in the higher elevations over the past 24 hours, but we'll have a little bit there in the far northern tier of states over the next 36, and a fair amount in parts of New England as that system comes up the east coast. There's the temperatures. Highs today 70s, Texas and Oklahoma. Still chilly with 40s and 50s through the northern tier of states, including the Great Lakes and the Northeast. Lows tonight, 20s and 30s through the northern tier states. A little milder, but still cool for this time of the year along the Gulf Coast, and kind of more of the same with that during the day tomorrow. Checking out the jet stream. There's that trough, digs in, but you'll notice how then we kind of go zonal for a while with these weak systems coming from west to east across the country. That kind of keeps the coldest air bottled up in Canada right on into the early part of next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, for Idaho Falls, Idaho, mostly cloudy, showers around the area, high temperature around 50. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, lots of sunshine today, very nice this afternoon, high 67. And Harrisburg, PA, a mixture of sunshine and clouds, high 52.
Something pretty spectacular to share with you. The cherry blossoms along the Washington Tidal Basin in Washington, D.C. are in peak bloom. Visitors are coming out in droves to enjoy the warmer weather and the beautiful spring colors. Just look at that. The 12 different varieties of USChina cherry trees that line the tidal basin were gifted to Washington in 1912 from Japan. Coming up, lawmakers talk about making changes for farmers wanting to file for bankruptcy and just how much U.S. dairy product is moving overseas. We have an update next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
January marked the third consecutive month for declines in dairy export volume. New numbers from the U.S. Dairy Export Council shows a 9% in decline. Overall, U.S. exporters sent more than 151,000 tons of dairy products to offshore buyers in January. It equals about $430 million. Exports were equivalent to just 12.5% of U.S. milk production. Experts say exporters continue to struggle because of competition and tariffs with China and Mexico. Some lawmakers are pushing Congress to consider raising the debt limit on bankruptcy filings. They're proposing increasing the debt limit of $4.1 million for larger farms. The National Farmers Union is quick to point out that even small farms don't meet the current Chapter 12 debt requirements, specifically dairy farms. A new report from the Wisconsin Policy Institute examined the correlation between low milk prices and the increase in Chapter 12 bankruptcies filed for small farms of all types in Wisconsin. What the study found is that milk prices have declined 33% since their recent high in 2014, while Chapter 12 bankruptcies more than doubled from 22 in 2014 to 50 in 2017. Sometimes all it takes is a little time and effort. Your Tuesday morning motivation involving these elephants next.
All in a Row, a new resource for crop and farm management information, is brought to you by Farm Journal and Valent USA.
We all get in sticky situations sometimes, and isn't it great when you have a little help to get you out of it? Rangers at a national park in northeast Thailand have rescued 6 baby elephants that were trapped in a mud pond. The elephant calves had been struggling to climb over the slippery banks of the pond. But the end result you see here wasn't easy. Park officials say workers had to manually dig a path for the calves to climb out, and the whole rescue took about 5 hours. The ranger said they didn't know how the elephants became trapped in the pond. Elephants play an important part in Thailand's culture, and they are the country's national animal. That's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For all of us here at AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.